On this week's episode of Hockey Inside Out, we talk about the Habs' 3-game winning streak and what this does for them for the long term. And also, with Alex Belzile scoring his first ever goal in the NHL, how cool was that for him to do that at the Bell Center? And with Arber Xhekaj out for the foreseeable future, how important does Mike Matheson's role become with the Montreal Canadiens' young defenseman moving towards the remaining games of the regular season? Plus the bonus questions on this week's episode of Hockey Inside Out. Welcome in to a new episode of Hockey Inside Out. I'm your host, Moe Khan, alongside Stu Cowan, Rick Green, and Andrew Berkshire. Gents, let's dive into it. The Habs are on a 3-game winning streak. As of right now, they are closer towards the Washington Capitals than they are to the Columbus Blue Jackets in the standings. But Rick Green, I thought about you, my friend, and how you like to emphasize defensemen. During this 3-game winning streak, the defensemen as a whole have scored 6 goals, 4 assists, and plus 15. Gents, your takeaway from the 3-game winning streak that we saw with them taking out the Islanders and the Oilers, and of course the Blackhawks on Tuesday nights.
My main takeaway is the pro tankers need to calm down a little bit. This kind of thing is going to happen for every team, good or bad. And the fact is, if the Canadiens want to make some noise at the trade deadline, they need stretches like this for guys like Jonathan Drouin and Evgeny Dadonov and Yoel Armia to play well and carry the team through little stretches to show that they still have some value. And that's actually, I think, long-term, better for the Canadiens than losing those 3 games would have been. And I will straight up admit my bias that I'm very glad that they beat the Oilers because I got to bring my oldest son to his first NHL game on Sunday. And that was really fun to see him go from like excited and happy to be there to the Oilers almost tying it up, getting it to 3-2, and then Harvey Pinard scoring right away to make it 4-2, and watching my 5-year-old turn to me and go, "Dad, they never should have messed with us," which was extremely fun to see, like, the cockiness come out of a little 5-year-old who doesn't really understand the game yet, but understands fandom and the feeling of being in a crowd of 21,000 people. So, biased, I enjoy it.
Well, I was talking with Nick Suzuki after one of the weekend games, and he was, I know Marty St. Louis had a meeting with the players after the midway point of the season, and Suzuki called it his State of the Union address. And basically what St. Louis' message was that the first half of the season, they let the guys sort of play open and free and do their own thing, and that's the style of play he wants to bring in the future is an offensive style, and he wanted to emphasize that, not worry too much about the systems or concepts that he likes, and play free, and they did. And then the second half, he said, now it's time to play for the team, play for the logo, time to have more of a team concept. He brought on a few different offensive concepts. There's 7-5-1 since the start of the second half of the season, and they've scored more than 3 goals in 6 of those games. So the offense is working. They're getting more offense from the defense, as you mentioned, Andrew. That's a big point. And you think they're missing Caden Goulet. They're missing Joel Edmondson. Other guys have stepped up, some of the young guys, especially Jordan Harris. He looked really good playing with David Savard against the Blackhawks. So, the tankers are going to be upset that every win lessens their chances of getting Connor Bedard in the draft, but you don't want a losing environment in a locker room. We saw it last season with the Canadiens before Dominic Ducharme was fired. Ask the Buffalo Sabres, ask the Edmonton Oilers, teams like that have gone into the tank to try and get the number 1 pick. When young players start to accept losing, it's a really bad thing. Players don't want to lose. As Nick Suzuki said, we don't want to get the first overall pick by finishing last in the league. We're paid to do a job. And as you said, Andrew, the fans who were there, your son's going to remember that. The fans are still paying a lot of money to go to the Bell Center. And the Canadiens have been fun to watch again the second half of the season. Anybody who was there Saturday or Sunday, I think the Canadiens should play more weekend afternoon games for that reason. I mean, it was a great atmosphere in the building. So many young kids that were showing them up on the giant screen. But I think this is good news for the Canadiens moving forward. I mean, they're going to be at the trade that after the trade deadline, they're going to be a worse team depending on who moves. And as you mentioned, Andrew, they're going to be able to move some of these guys, or more likely to move them when they're playing well, like they are right now. So they're going to be in the draft lottery. It is a lottery, so finishing last doesn't guarantee anything. But that culture that Marty St. Louis is trying to bring in, we're really starting to see it now, and especially with all the injuries, it's quite impressive. This is their second 3-game winning streak of the season.
Well, I mean, let's face it. I don't know what they did on their break, but they obviously did something right because they came back fully energized and ready to play. And, just judging by what we've seen as of late, they continue to compete. They continue to work hard. They continue to show, pride in playing well. And, that's a compliment to St. Louis as far as, what he's trying to instill in these guys. And, it's nice to see. They're obviously are very motivated to finish on a positive note. And look at they're blocking shots. They're getting involved in every aspect of the game to try and be the best they can be. And it's really, really nice to see. And this is a big part of trying to get an identity of what type of personnel they have with their hockey club. And of course, it goes without saying that I'm not surprised that the defenseman picked up the slack and made the difference in the weekend games.
It's crazy when you think of all the injuries, because at the press box at the Bell Center, where you go out to go down to the media lounge, the injured players sit just to the left of the exit. And like I did a second double take during the second intermission in Chicago. There's so many guys sitting there. It's like they're noticeable because they all got their suits on with the toque, which is the modern day look for the NHL player. But there's so many guys that are hurt and key players that are out. The Edmondson and Goulet and Gallagher and Caulfield and Evans, and I'm sure I'm missing a guy. I can't even think of them all off the top of my head. But the fact they've been able to do this with so many key players injured just says a lot about what Marty St. Louis brought to this team and bringing back that pride in playing for the CH. And that's what his message, his State of the Union message was. You're playing for the crest now. Let's play more like a team, and we're really seeing that.
Yeah, and I think when the people who are obsessed with the tank, and I do understand it, I mean, everyone wants to see Connor Bedard pull on the CH, right? It would be an amazing thing to have one of the best players in the entire league playing for the Montreal Canadiens, especially a forward. We really haven't seen that in a very long time, going back to the days of Lafleur. But as Stu mentioned, you're playing for a chance, right? A higher percentage chance. And the highest percentage chance is still not even anywhere close to a majority chance, right? So thinking about it that way, it's not a enjoyable fan experience, I think. And like the other option is, would you really want the Canadiens to be playing like the Chicago Blackhawks? Like that team is embarrassing to watch. I don't know how they've even won as many games as they've won. I think the Canadiens put them in a position to get ahead last night in how often they took penalties in the first two periods, and the Blackhawks just couldn't do anything. Even Patrick Kane he's lost passion, right? Like he just doesn't have it anymore. And the Canadiens, with all these injuries, they just continue to have this next man up attitude. How many defensemen are out? We'll talk about Arbor Xhekaj in a minute. It just seems like they don't understand that they should be bad, and that's kind of fun.
Well, we saw it last year. The Blackhawks are this year with the Canadiens before Ducharme was fired. That's what the Canadiens. They were horrible to watch. There was no effort. They didn't care anymore, it seemed. And I remember with like 45 games left in the season in the press box, guys looking at each other, oh my God, 45 more games of this. Like, thank God we're getting paid to watch this. You feel sorry for people paying $500 for a couple of tickets last season going to the Bell Center to watch that. It was horrible. But this season, you said, Andrew, I'm sure whatever you paid for the tickets with your son, it was worth it for the experience for him, and it was just a fun time.
And I think
your thoughts?
Sorry, I was just going to say the importance of knowing how to keep the goals against down and have success that works from there. And giving up 5 goals against allows them a chance to win each and every night. So they really seem to be digging into trying to shore up that part of their game. And, it's obviously a very, very big part of it. And they see that the chance to win every night when they play that type of strong defensive game, they have a chance to win each night.
I'll say this quickly here, guys. The Edmonton game, when they scored the second goal, when they had the Oilers in a cul-de-sac, essentially, when the puck was in the zone, Andrew, I thought of you when it came to the analytics of what they were doing with the puck control and all that stuff. Kovacevic made a play, and no one's going to see this, at the blue line. Rather than fire the puck on net, he fired into the corner that led to the Harris goal. And Stu, going to your point with the concepts, you're seeing that this team has adapted to who they're facing. The Islanders was a grind-out game. The Oilers was a high-scoring, high-skating affair. Against the Blackhawks, against a much inferior team, they dominated Chicago in that matchup on Tuesday night. So you've seen this team adapt to what they have in front of them. And quite frankly, if they can carry this over, guys, this is going to be a fun team to watch towards the end of the season and going towards training camp, what could be the possibilities for this team moving forward under Martin St. Louis.
Yeah, they make smart plays with the puck. I think you mentioned with Kovacevic, you mentioned it. And that's one of the things with Marty St. Louis. It's just that it's being he wants smart players who think the game well. And you watch, they make so many of these guys just make smart decisions with the puck over and over.
Well, smart decisions indeed, and they got some big games coming up this weekend. And a player who had a big game over the weekend, Alex Belzile, scoring his first ever NHL goal in his career. How cool is that, guys, to see that happen from in the Bell Center? And the one guy that I thought of as a comparable to Belzile, similar age group and how they both entered the NHL and how they had to grind their way up the ladder, Joel Ward, if you remember him. He had that university career. He had to go through the back rows to get to the NHL. And I thought of Belzile, I thought of Joel Ward, had both those guys grind their way through and were given the opportunity to do well. And you saw Belzile earn that shot and score that goal over the weekend.
Well, Belzile is one of the guys, you watch him play. He makes smart plays with the puck all the time. Speaking to him after a recent game, and he says, I'm not stupid. I know my skating was my problem when I was younger. That's what sort of held him back as far as getting into the NHL. But he's a smart hockey player, and he works really hard. And at 31, he's the oldest Canadiens player to score his first goal since Herb Gardner, who did it when he was 35 in 1926. Yeah. And Marty St. Louis had a great quote after the game the other night when he was asked about Belzile. He says, some people in life give up on their dreams too easily, and they never reach them as a result in whatever they do. Here's a guy who just never gave up. I mean, he played double C hockey as a kid growing up because the little community he lived in wasn't big enough to have a double A team, and he went and tried out for the triple A team and didn't make it. Then he played at Champlain College in the junior triple A league before finally getting a chance to play in the Quebec Junior League. Never drafted in the NHL. And the other interesting thing St. Louis said is that he's a leader. He's captain of the Laval Rocket, but he said he comes up to the Canadiens and he's a leader in that locker room. And Suzuki spoke the other day about what a boost both Belzile and Harvey Pinard have given this team. Two guys coming up from Laval. Harvey Pinard's the opposite, a young guy at 24 getting his chance to play on the number one line with Suzuki and Josh Anderson. But two guys that have given the other guys in the room a little bit of a boost, I think, because you look at these guys and you realize maybe how lucky you are to be in the NHL. And how difficult it is for some players to get there. As Marty St. Louis said, he has so many great quotes. He says, some players, the door opens for them to get into the NHL, and other players, they need to climb through a window. And these two guys have had to climb through a window to get there. And I was so happy to see Alex Belzile score that goal. And he spoke about how cool it was that he did it at the Bell Center. He got to hear Michel Lacroix call out his name as the goal scorer. He grew up watching and hearing this voice call a goal. So he was just extra happy that he actually scored it at the Bell Center instead of on the road.
Yeah, and how great is that? A young French Canadian from Rivière-du-Loup that's been through the mill, so to speak, the East Coast League, the American League, bouncing all over the place. He's kept the drive going, kept his dream going that he wanted to work and be given an opportunity, and a classic example of a guy that has paid his dues, so to speak. And really, really nice to see that he gets his first goal. And, the smile on his face, I think, shows just how excited he is to be part of the Montreal Canadiens. And it's just really nice to see that they're giving a kid like this the opportunity to play and showing some results and what he's worth. So, hats off to him, paid his dues, getting an opportunity, and, hard work pays off, and the classic example is with Alex Belzile.
Yeah, 100%. And his story is the kind of thing that sports are all about, right? Mm-hmm. It's the unlikely guy that continues to just push harder than everyone else. And I was talking with Mark Dumont on my show Game Over Montreal last night, talking about this game, and he's been a big booster of Belzile since like the first moment that he was signed in Laval. And we were talking about Belzile is probably not going to be the first guy on the puck in a puck battle, right? But he's going to outwork the guy who he's facing every time. And Stu mentioned how smart he is with the puck. It is incredible how much there's a difference between the NHL being too fast for a player and a player being not a fast skater, right? Belzile thinks the game at an NHL level. And I think that's what allows him to break into the NHL at 31 years old and be a guy who isn't super fast, but never seems behind the play. It's that intelligence that he brings to the game. And I don't think he's necessarily risk averse, but he's not a player who makes a lot of mistakes. And that makes him very easy for a coach of trust to throw out there. And we talk about what he's brought to the rest of the lineup, but look at the huge change in Michael Pezzetta since Belzile and Harvey Pinard came up. Michael Pezzetta has gone from a guy who's just kind of hanging on for dear life. He'll throw some fists now and then, trying to get minutes in the NHL, to now he's making plays. He's making skill plays, kind of like what we saw when he was first called up to the Montreal Canadiens and he was the energy guy. So that energy has permeated the entire lineup from these guys coming up from Laval, and it is honestly really great to see.
He's a perfect captain for Laval. Like, he's the guy you want your young kids to be around, right? The guy who just never gives up, and leadership skills, and as Andrew's smart. I mean, fans watching him in future games, just watch when he dumps it in. It's not just a dump in; it's a dump into a spot. He's like, it's almost like a pass. He dumps it into the corner, either hard or soft, depending on the speed of the winger on the other side coming in. And I was watching him the game against Chicago and focusing on that, and like, he didn't make a bad play. Like, every time he had the puck, he did something smart with it. And he realizes, like, his skating has always been his weakness. He's worked really hard over the years to try and get it better. He talked about how hard he works every summer in the gym, and every rep's important, and working on the parts he needs to work on, which is mainly his skating. But he, as you said, Andrew, he's not that fast. He's not really an NHL level skater, but he thinks the game at an NHL level, which is allowing him to be successful and do what he's doing right now.
Jess, what do you think is the future for Belzile with this organization moving forward? I know with Laval, he's key for them, but do you think he has a chance to stick around down the road and be a part of this rotation? Because, guys, we talk about Martin St. Louis and his road to get to where he was during a player, now being a head coach. If this is Dom Ducharme or Michel Therrien or Claude Julien, maybe there's no Belzile in the lineup because they don't see this guy as being a useful part of what they want to be as a machine moving forward.
No, I don't think he necessarily has a future with the Canadiens. I think he has a future as being in Laval. But this is bonus points for him. This is an opportunity. Like, nobody expected, like, all the injuries they have, as I mentioned earlier, all these guys injured in the press box. If they're not all there, there's no way Alex Belzile is playing with the Canadiens right now, and probably not Raphael Harvey Pinard either. Pinard might have more of a future with this team because of his age. But for Belzile, this is just a really he's getting NHL money. He's he's getting to live his dream and play for the Canadiens. His family must just be over the moon watching this. This is just it's a really nice story. It's like a Rudy type story, a movie screen story, and this is his chance. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if he spends the rest of the season here. I know they sent him back to Laval so he could play in the All-Star game in Laval while Harvey Pinard had the break. But I think it's just a really, really good story. And I think he knows that. I think he's just going to soak it up and enjoy every single game he gets to play with the Canadiens. And with so many injuries, he might be here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, if he doesn't end up being like a 12th, 13th forward for the Montreal Canadiens going forward, I hope that what he's done so far earns him an NHL job somewhere. Because I think I look at this player, and he may not be like a championship caliber fourth liner type guy, but I think he is an NHL player on some team. There's a lot of players who play in the NHL who have a lot worse results and, frankly, scoring numbers so far than Alex Belzile, who has 6 points in 8 games so far this season. I think he's earned, at the very least, an extended cup of coffee for this season.
Rick, final word?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, it's nice to see that this guy's been given an opportunity, and I don't know whether he would become a regular player, but it does allow the organization to get a good reading unfortunately through injuries, to bring a guy up, see what he's capable of doing, give him the opportunity, and see how he responds. And, it's a very obviously positive response to what he's done so far. Over the long term is a big question mark, but at least let's give him credit to date. He's done a good job and responded very well. And it's good for the organization to look at these kind of guys and want to have guys that really want to be part of the Montreal Canadiens.
For Alex Belzile scoring his first. So ahead, Stu.
So I just did a quick look there on Cap Friendly, and it's a 1-year contract he's on. $275,000 in Laval, $750,000 with the Canadiens. So he's getting a nice unexpected raise. For each game he plays here, he's making more money. So it's nice to see. And this contract's up after this season. If he doesn't get an offer from another NHL team, a one-way type deal, which I'd be surprised if he does, I wouldn't be surprised to see him re-sign and stay with the Canadiens and play in Laval, close to family and friends.
Well, for Alex Belzile, he's an inspiration because there are many other Alex Belziles that we don't know about. They're going to look at him and say, I can be him down the road, that he will be an inspiration for those for years to come. And, scoring his first goal, perhaps there'll be many more with the Canadiens down the road for whatever time he has left with the big club. If not, he might be back in Laval. If not, he might be on another NHL team come this fall. We'll find out, but definitely a great story for the Habs to learn and lean upon moving forward in the remainder of the regular season. Well, gentlemen, with Arbor Xhekaj out for the foreseeable future, how important does Mike Matheson's role become with the Montreal Canadiens helping the young core move up and get themselves more grizzled going towards the final games of the year?
It's unfortunate that Arbor got injured. I mean, he was, playing well, learning how he needs to play at the NHL level. And obviously, there's a lot of opposition teams that are quite happy that he's out of the lineup, saying that they don't have to worry about getting smashed around or end up getting into a fight, as he's second in the league, I think, with scraps. But anyways, part of the game, unfortunately, he's going to take some time to repair himself. But on the other healthy side, with Mike Matheson, what an addition. This guy has impressed me, even though he's only played 20 games. He's stepped up his play to be, power play, penalty kill. He plays almost 25 minutes a game. He does it all. Beautiful skater. Very selective in, his decisions to jump into the play on the offensive rush. So this type of guy back there in the blue line, if you will, all the young guys are watching him and learning by some of the things that he's doing and the details of the game, and his consistency in how to play defense is huge. So Mike Matheson, every game that I watch him, I'm really impressed with how he handled himself, and I think he's doing a great job on the power play. I mean, he's probably got some pretty good smarts and heads up plays, and will shoot the puck. And really, really nice to see him part of the defensive core, and can do nothing but help all these young kids at understanding what they need to do each and every night.
It must be nice to be able to skate like Mike Matheson. I got to say that. He is one heck of a skater. I was shocked by how well he neutralized Patrick Kane, especially on the penalty kill where, you expect Kane to have more space. You do some more of that like fancy stick handling, but just with his skating and his good stick, he was able to completely neutralize one of the better power play playmakers in the last, 12, 15 years of the game. I know that Kane's not having a great season, but Matheson made him look like he was washed. It was incredible to see their one-on-one dynamic. And Matheson, again, against Edmonton, stuck with Connor McDavid very well for most of that game. I know McDavid still got his chances, but he's Connor McDavid. I think the thing that interests me the most about Matheson is I watch him play and see the skill level, and I still think he's like a little bit raw. And I wonder if working more with St. Louis could get an even better player out of what he has there. It's almost like he's still got like some clay that you can shape into something even better as a player, which is rare for a player his age. There's a lot there to love about Mike Matheson. He's a little bit like messy at times, where he'll be on the wrong side of the puck, thinking offense when maybe he should be thinking defense, but that's okay. I think that he adds something to this defense core that they didn't have over the course of the first half of the season when he was out. And I look at what he could bring out of guys like Jordan Harris and Justin Barron, just by, they absorb some of what he has by osmosis, some of his risk taking. I think that could make better players out of them as well.
Yeah, so I had a little chat with Matheson's dad after the Blackhawks game, Rod, who's still an old-timers defenseman out in Point Claire in the West Island where his son grew up. And I'm sure he was sort of thinking back to the backyard rink he used to build every winter where Mike learned to skate. And he's just an elite NHL skater. I think back to that 3-on-3 overtime on the weekend when he took the puck behind his net. Can't remember who the player was who chased him, and he just blew past him, blew past the second defender and created a 2-on-1 all by himself. That Petrie trade's looking really good right now. Nobody knows Mike Matheson better than Kent Hughes. He was his agent since the time Mike was about 14 years old, or his family advisor, because Mike was going the U.S. college route. But just a really good trade, and he's also a solid human being. He's a super nice guy. Was captain of the Midget Lac St. Louis Lions team on the West Island when he played there, on the same team as Jonathan Drouin back then. He's a leader. He's bilingual, which people in the city love, obviously, and the French media loves. Just a solid player. And I think we're seeing the player he is now, because one of the injuries he had this season was a groin injury. And Rick, you would know that's a tough injury to come back from, especially when skating is a strong point of your game. So now we're seeing a healthy Mike Matheson. We're seeing what he can do. We're seeing how well he skates and how many minutes he can log. Marty St. Louis said after the Chicago game, he says he never gets tired. You just keep putting him out there. He's in such incredible physical condition. You can play 25, 26, 27 minutes a game without any problem, playing power play, playing penalty kill, playing against the other team's top lines. With Jack I feel really bad for the kid. I mean, fighting's part of the role that he has. It's one of the reasons he got into junior and one of the reasons the Canadiens liked him, but he's so much more than that. I mean, he's turned into a really effective NHL defenseman. He's mobile. He skates well. He moves the puck. He sees the game well. He's got confidence. So I really felt bad for him getting injured the way he did. But, an injury to one player is always an opportunity for another. So I'm happy to see Chris Weidman get a chance to play again. Weidman's been an ultimate teammate on this team. He's been a healthy scratch. I don't know how many times. He never complains. His teammates love him. He loves being part of this team. He's a positive influence in the locker room. So now he's getting a chance to play. Jack looks like he's going to be out for quite a while. But Jack is a big loss. He's a big physical presence on that team. And, it's also given Jordan Harris a chance to play more minutes. And Jordan Harris, Mike Matheson, we talk about him a lot as a leader and a veteran guy on the team. But David Savard, man, he has been played so well this season. And Jordan, he was with Goulet at the beginning of the season. He was paired with Jordan Harris against the Blackhawks. Just a real solid veteran, stay-at-home guy who allows Harris to do his thing, allows Goulet to do his thing. And it was nice to see Savard score against the Blackhawks. I mean, what a shot. The pass was behind. It was in his skates. He got it out of his skates, got it up to his stick, and scored a really nice goal. So, but with Matheson, that trade for Jeff Petrie is really looking good right now.
100%. And, you talk about Arbor Xhekaj being missed. I think the guy that might miss him the most is Josh Anderson. He might have to step into a few more fights down the stretch here, as we saw against the Blackhawks with him sticking up for Nick Suzuki. Maybe his knuckles will get a little sore with Arbor Xhekaj out. But I think the main takeaway for Arbor is you don't have to fight as often as you've been fighting. We've seen, when you step into the NHL and you establish yourself as a tough guy, everyone's going to want a piece of you for sure. But 9 fights in a season in the modern NHL is probably too much, and that's spread over only 50-something games. You don't really want to get into double-digit fights. So Arbor Xhekaj can probably rest his knuckles a little bit and pick his spots a little bit better going forward.
Yeah, he's second in the NHL in fights with 9, one behind Nicolas Deslauriers, former Canadian. Nicolas Deslauriers is their main. He's a hard-working guy in that, but he's mainly there because he can fight. Xhekaj does so much more than that, and I think, but a young guy coming into the league with that reputation, especially after what he did to Zach Kassian in his first fight, other guys are going to want to challenge him. And when you're the young guy, the new kid on the block, you can't really say no the way the NHL, the book goes. But yeah, he's going to, moving forward, he's going to have to cut down, because every time you drop the gloves, there's a chance of getting hurt, either breaking your hand, punching a helmet. He landed about 3 solid blows there in his helmet before he popped his shoulder out. Every time you drop the gloves, you're risking getting injured, and now it's happened to him. So that might make him realize that you got to say no sometimes.
But
I was going to bring up a point, guys. I don't know if it was through you, Stu, or through you, Andrew, on the timeline on social media yesterday, but there was a quote that I saw very quickly about Matheson embracing being back in Montreal. How it's a pride, it's a civic thing for him, right? It's a pride thing to be back in his hometown, to play with this franchise, an iconic organization that he's with, and that there's a bit of twitch in him, that he has more of a step now, that he wants to go out there every single night and say, yes, I am representing this organization, and we will win games, and we'll work our butts off if we don't win games to prove that we are going to be going in the right direction and become a perennial contender maybe 3-4 years down the road.
Well, as he said, his dad used to take him to maybe 1 game or 2 games a year. Like Andrew, you were talking about bringing your son to the game, and I'm sure when you were sitting there with your son, there's a part of you in your mind, like any hockey dad, man, it'd be so cool if my kid ever played here. And now they're experiencing that. As I said, I saw his dad after the game. He was just beaming. As Matheson said, I think it was Eric Engels he told the quote to. He said, the people in the stands, he says, I was one of you. I was that kid sitting in the stands, getting to go to 1 game a year with your parents sort of breaking the bank to take you, and wondering and dreaming that one day I might be there. And now he is. But he says, I'm still one of you. Like, he's a proud Montrealer. He's happy to be back here living here with his wife. His French is excellent. He said he wanted to say that in French to the fans, but he didn't think his French was good enough. But his French is outstanding. So he's a proud Montreal guy coming back to play for his hometown team, and it's so happy to see his parents after the game, just how happy they were to be able to watch him every game now.
And let's face it, final word. Look, he grew up in Montreal, and he lived those years or experienced those years where Montreal was winning a lot, and he probably was quite aware of guys that raised the Stanley Cup over those years and all the winning seasons, and now he's been given an opportunity to be part of it and is taken full advantage of saying, you know what, I am really happy here. I want to make the difference. And when you see this guy play with a new type of NHL where they have the defense very, very active in every rush almost for all those teams that are having success. I mean, I watched him go down the ice, first one in the opposition corner, and next thing you know, you turn around and he's the first one back in our defensive zone just through his ability to be able to move as well as he moves. So this type of asset and this type of player in the new defenseman activated type game is a huge bonus for the Montreal Canadiens. And we're going to see that with Harris, and we're going to see that with Goulet, and all these type of guys have all these assets to be very similar in adding to the new type of offensive game that the NHL is all about.
Yeah, well, Harris and Goulet and Xhekaj can learn from Matheson, the offensive part of the game, how important skating is, and then watching David Savard, they can realize how the defensive style and blocking shots. So they're two great veterans for this young defense corps to learn from.
Well, if there's one thing to look forward to for this young Canadiens corridor is going to be training camp in the fall, because there are some studs who are coming up here, guys, we've spoken about in the last few weeks, and that's going to bring some great competition for that training camp in the fall, and we'll see how that plays out for the team moving forward with Mike Matheson perhaps leading the way and make sure these guys are going in the right direction. That'll do it for us here on this week's episode of Hockey Inside Out. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube page and follow that, and also sign up for the MontrealGazette.com/newsletters. And don't forget to submit your questions and comments. We look forward to conversing about that on a future episode. And for full episodes and bonus content, head on by Hockey Inside Out. On behalf of Andrew, Rick, and Stu, wish you a great week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.